Hi, I'm Ken and welcome to the channel. Today we're exploring 10 Canadian products that used to be popular in the United States but are no longer imported or have seen a significant decline in demand. So let's get into it. Let's start with softwood lumber, a product that has played a pivotal role in shaping the North American landscape. For decades, Canadian forests have supplied vast quantities of softwood lumber, fueling the growth of cities and suburbs across the United States. This lumber was not just a commodity, it was the backbone of American home construction, providing the essential framework for millions of houses. From the post-war housing boom to the rise of sprawling suburbs, Canadian lumber has been at the heart of the American building story, supporting everything from cozy family homes to towering apartment complexes. For generations, builders relied on Canadian softwood to frame homes, schools, and businesses, making it a critical part of the American dream. The steady flow of lumber across the border created jobs, supported local economies, and fostered a unique economic partnership between the two nations. But this relationship has faced significant challenges. Years of heated trade disputes and the imposition of tariffs, often centered around disagreements over stumpage fees, which are the prices charged to harvest timber from public land, have made Canadian lumber less competitive in the U.S. market. These disputes have led to uncertainty for both Canadian producers and American builders, with each new round of negotiations bringing fresh complications and costs. As a result, U.S. builders have increasingly turned to domestic sources or even imported wood from countries as far away as Europe and South America, seeking alternatives to Canadian supply. This shift has changed the dynamics of the lumber market, introducing new players and new challenges for everyone involved. The result: Canadian lumber's once unquestioned dominance in the U.S. market has faded, leaving behind quieter mills and a transformed industry landscape on both sides of the border. The story of softwood lumber is now one of adaptation, resilience, and ongoing negotiation, a saga that continues to shape the future of North American construction. Next up, dairy products. Strict U.S. import quotas and high tariffs have kept most Canadian cheese and milk out, while Canada's own protectionist policies mirror this. The result is a trickle of cross-border dairy trade, with American consumers missing out on Canadian variety. Canadian steel once fueled American industry, but times have changed. U.S. manufacturing shifts, global competition, and tariffs, especially the 2018 Section 232 tariffs, have led American companies to favor domestic or alternative suppliers. Canadian steel's share of the U.S. market has shrunk dramatically. Canadian maple syrup, once a breakfast staple in the U.S., now faces stiff competition. U.S. states like Vermont have ramped up production, and changing consumer tastes have fragmented the market. Canadian syrup is still exported, but it's no longer the only premium option on American tables. Canadian wheat, renowned around the world for its exceptional quality and consistency, has long been a symbol of the country's agricultural strength and heritage. For generations, these vast golden fields have produced wheat that is highly sought after by bakers and millers, not just in Canada, but across the globe. The unique climate and rich prairie soil contribute to the superior protein content and baking properties that set Canadian wheat apart from others. This reputation has made it a staple ingredient in countless kitchens and bakeries worldwide, helping to shape the very bread we eat every day. In fact, Canadian wheat used to be a key ingredient in American bread, prized for its ability to create fluffy loaves and perfect crusts. Many bakeries in the United States proudly displayed signs highlighting their use of Canadian wheat, a mark of quality that customers recognized and trusted. For decades, this cross-border partnership helped both countries thrive, with Canadian farmers supplying the raw material for some of America's favorite baked goods. However, over the years, U.S. government subsidies and ongoing trade disputes have shifted the landscape. These policies made American-grown wheat more affordable for domestic millers, putting Canadian wheat at a disadvantage in the marketplace and forcing many farmers to adapt to new realities. The competition became fiercer, and Canadian producers had to innovate and find new markets to survive. At the same time, global trade agreements and the development of improved American wheat varieties have further reduced the demand for Canadian imports. Some shipments have even faced new barriers at the border, as both countries work to protect their own agricultural industries. These changes have led to uncertainty for farmers and millers on both sides, as they navigate a shifting and sometimes unpredictable marketplace. Today, U.S. millers rely less on Canadian wheat than ever before, turning instead to homegrown varieties. The story of wheat between these two nations is a tale of changing policies, innovation, and the ongoing quest for the perfect loaf of bread. As the industry continues to evolve, the legacy of Canadian wheat endures, reminding us of the deep connections between our fields, our food, and our shared history. Canadian aluminum, once a go-to for U.S. manufacturers, has lost ground. Tariffs and quotas, along with rising global competition, have pushed American buyers to diversify their sources. Canadian aluminum remains significant, but its privileged status is gone. Newsprint, Canada's former export powerhouse, has been decimated by the digital revolution. As Americans shifted to online news, demand for print paper collapsed, shuttering mills and ending an era. Canadian newsprint exports to the U.S. have all but vanished. Potash from Saskatchewan once fed America's farms. New U.S. and global sources, plus more efficient fertilizer use, have reduced demand for Canadian potash. The U.S. market is now more competitive, and Canadian dominance has faded. Canadian assembled cars were once common in the U.S. thanks to deep industry integration. Shifts in manufacturing to the southern U.S. and Mexico, plus new trade rules, have cut Canada's share of auto exports. Fewer Canadian vehicles now make it to American driveways. Canadian seafood, lobster, crab, salmon, used to be a U.S. favorite. Tougher U.S. regulations and fierce global competition have made it harder for Canadian exporters. American buyers now have more choices, and Canadian seafood must fight for its place. These 10 products reveal how politics, economics, and technology reshape even the closest trade relationships. Each item tells a unique story about Canada's place in the world, and how its industries must constantly adapt to shifting global tides. Whether it's the impact of new trade agreements, the rise of automation, or changing consumer preferences, the flow of goods across borders is never static. Instead, it's a living, breathing process, one that reflects the ambitions, challenges, and resilience of a nation. The story of Canadian trade is not just about numbers or statistics. It's about people, communities, and the choices they make every day. Behind every product, there are workers, innovators, and families whose livelihoods depend on the ability to adapt and thrive in a rapidly changing environment. As we look closer, we see that trade is more than just an exchange of goods. It's a reflection of our values, our priorities, and our vision for the future. The decline of Canadian imports isn't about lost friendship. It's about adaptation in a changing world. As global supply chains evolve and new competitors emerge, Canada and its trading partners must rethink how they do business. Sometimes, this means finding new markets or investing in innovation to stay ahead. Other times, it's about responding to environmental concerns or political shifts that affect what gets traded and how. The landscape of international trade is always in motion, shaped by everything from technological breakthroughs to shifting alliances and unexpected global events. For Canada, staying competitive means being flexible and forward-thinking, ready to seize new opportunities as they arise. From lumber to seafood, every shift tells a story of evolving markets and national priorities. The products we see today may not be the same ones we rely on tomorrow. For example, as demand for sustainable resources grows, Canadian industries are exploring greener practices and new technologies. Meanwhile, traditional exports like wheat and oil face fresh challenges from global competition and climate change. The future of Canadian trade will depend on how well these industries can innovate and respond to both local and global pressures, ensuring that Canada remains a key player on the world stage. What changes have you noticed? Maybe you've seen new products on store shelves or noticed shifts in the news about Canadian trade. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective helps us understand how these big trends affect everyday life. Your experiences and observations are a vital part of this ongoing conversation, helping us all see the bigger picture. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more deep dives into global trade. We'll keep exploring how the world's economies connect, adapt and grow, one story at a time. Stay tuned as we uncover more about the forces shaping our interconnected world and what it means for the future of trade.